Okay guys, in this video I'm going to demonstrate to you how to upgrade the O-ring seal that's in the encoder with a much better higher grade gasket. Now, to remove the motor from the bike, I have done a previous video on this, so if you look in the description below there'll be a link for that. Once you get it out of the bike, it's worth getting yourself some. I'm just using a roller tape here just to make the motor a bit more stable when you're working on it. I'll then demonstrate to you how to remove the gasket. Now, to do this, all you're going to need is a 4mm Allen key, a torque wrench that goes down as low as 1.8 Newton meters, and then a couple of picks. But a pick is definitely an advantage to have to take the connector off. So what I'll do now is I'll start to remove the 6 bolts using the 4mm Allen key, and then I'll show you the internals. So I'll start doing that now. Right, once you remove the 6 bolts, what you don't want to do is just lift the encoder straight off the motor, because there is a small resistor that's attached to the circuit board. What you want to do really is just kind of rock it over, so then you're not putting too much stress on this cable here. And now at this point, what you're then going to need to do is undo this connector from the circuit board. Now, if you see right at the very top there, there's like a little locking tab. So what you need to do is push that down and then also apply pressure outward to make the connection come undone. So what I tend to do is use a pick, push down on that, and then you can kind of pivot off the housing. This is a bit of a trick, so there is a bit of a knack to it, so depending on which pick you use really. There you go, so you can see now I'm starting to push it out. So we just gently rock that out, and there you go, the encoder is now detached. Just to stress, I guess, how these cables are so small, so just make sure that you don't apply too much pressure, because it's not going to take much effort for you to then disconnect that, and you're going to have all sorts of problems when you come to put it back together. Okay, so at this point you can see the original O-ring that's here, so we're going to discard that, and now we're going to use the new gasket. There is a slight on this orifice here which goes across where the NTC cable comes out of. There's a little lug that's on there, so you just need to make sure that it faces down and then sits inside that the hole there where the cable comes out. So before we put the gasket on, what we need to do is just apply a bit of dielectric grease just around the edge, just to make sure it gets a good seal on the body, and then a good seal around on the encoder as well. You can be quite generous with it as well, make sure you cover all the surface. Doesn't hurt, it's also just to put a little bit on the surface of the engine, of the motor casing. And then now what you're going to need to do is push this connector now through this hole. Again, just as I mentioned to you earlier, this is quite a fragile connector, so just take your time. Just make sure you go through without causing any stress on that connection. And then you just make sure that that little lug is pushed down inside. And that's it, that's all you need to do preparation wise. Okay, so now the gasket's all evenly pushed down. It's got plenty of grease on it. And now I'm going to get the encoder and then push that connector inside there. So again, this is a very fiddly operation because it is such a tiny little connector. Push it all the way home, and then you'll see that tab now is raised once it's in there, so just to make sure that it's in the locked position now, because that tab is now slightly raised up. Okay, so now what we'll do is we'll put the encoder down, line up the holes. I shall refit the 6 bolts. Now I'll then go on to using a torque wrench. Yeah, just avoid going around in a circle, because then it won't give you a very good seal. So if you just do opposites, work your way around until you get 1.8 Newton meters on all of those bolts. That's it. So now all 6 bolts have been torqued up to the correct specifications. Yeah, so we've replaced the gasket, we've installed some grease, made sure that connector's back on, and then we've then torqued up the 6 bolts. So that completes the gasket replacement procedure. Once you then do this procedure, you're then going to need to run the function 24 configuration, which is using the blue keypad that you guys have got. So it's just making sure that that relationship between the controller and the encoder is what it's supposed to be. So again, there'll be a link in the description below taking you to that function 24 video for you to be able to carry that procedure. Obviously you need to put the motor back in the bike to do that. So yeah, once you put the motor back in the bike, function 24, and then that's it, you're good to go with the upgraded gasket. Okay, thanks guys.